There is a silent weakness hidden inside most human beings. It is not fear. It is not a failure. It is an emotional reaction. The moment someone can anger you, they gain access to your mind. They can predict your behavior, manipulate your choices, and pull you into battles that weaken you while strengthening them. History is filled with powerful men who lost kingdoms, reputations, and entire futures because they could not control a single emotion. But the rare individual who masters emotional detachment becomes untouchable. He walks through insults without flinching. He faces betrayal without collapse. He listens to criticism without rage. Not because he feels nothing, but because he understands something deeper. He understands that anger is often a trap designed to rob him of clarity. Machiavelli knew that power belongs to the calm observer, not the emotional reactor. The lion may frighten others with force, but the fox survives because it understands human nature, and human nature is addicted to emotional chaos. People want reactions. They feed on outrage. They provoke because your anger entertains them, empowers them, and exposes your weaknesses. So the question is not how to avoid angry people. The real question is, how do you become emotionally invincible in a world designed to provoke you? Today, we uncover the 5 brutal truths that will help you reach a state where nothing and no one can anger you. Understand that anger is a form of submission. Listen carefully, because this truth is uncomfortable for most people to accept. Every time you lose control of your anger, you are surrendering power, not gaining it. Surrendering it. The world teaches you that rage is strength, that explosive reactions make you dominant, that emotional outbursts prove confidence. But Niccolò Machiavelli understood something far darker about human nature. The angry man is rarely in control. He is controlled. Think about it. The moment someone insults you and you immediately react, then have already succeeded. They entered your mind without permission. They dictated your emotional state. They turned your peace into chaos with only a few words. And the most dangerous part is this: they now understand exactly how to manipulate you again. Manipulators study reactions. Weak people provoke emotionally because they know emotional individuals become predictable. The second anger takes control, logic disappears, discipline vanishes, pride begins making decisions instead of intelligence. And history has proven repeatedly that people destroy their own lives not through lack of ability, but through lack of emotional mastery. Look at kings who lost empires because of wounded pride. Look at powerful men ruined by one emotional decision. Look at ordinary people destroying relationships, careers, and opportunities because they could not remain calm for 5 seconds. Anger blinds faster than fear because it creates the illusion of certainty. In rage, people feel justified while aching the most foolish choices of their lives. But the emotionally disciplined person operates differently. He understands that provocation is often a test, an invitation into emotional warfare. And instead of reacting instantly, he watches silently. He studies the person provoking him. He sees the insecurity behind the insult, the weakness behind the aggression, the desperation behind the disrespect. Because emotionally unstable people need your reaction. Your anger feeds their sense of importance. Your emotional collapse gives them victory. But when you remain calm, something strange happens. The manipulator becomes uncomfortable. The toxic person loses balance. The angry individual begins exposing themselves while you remain composed. Silence becomes power in a world addicted to reaction. Stop expecting humanity to behave fairly. One of the greatest illusions that keeps people trapped in anger is the belief that the world is supposed to be fair. From childhood, most people are taught a dangerous fantasy that good intentions guarantee good treatment, that loyalty will always be repaid with loyalty, that honesty will protect them from deception. But Niccolò Machiavelli understood human nature too deeply to believe such comforting lies. He knew that people are driven not only by kindness, but by envy, fear, greed, ego, and self-interest. And the moment you truly understand this, your anger begins to weaken. Think about how most people react to betrayal. They are shocked, furious, emotionally destroyed. Not because betrayal is rare, but because they convinced themselves it was impossible. Their suffering comes less from the act itself and more from the collapse of their illusion about human behavior. But the wise observer studies people without fantasy. He understands that some individuals will smile while secretly competing against him. Some will praise him publicly while resenting him privately. Some will promise loyalty only when loyalty benefits them. This does not make him paranoid. It makes him realistic. Machiavelli believed that emotional stability comes from seeing the world clearly, not emotionally. Weak people demand that reality obey their expectations. Strong people adapt themselves to reality as it truly is. When you stop expecting perfection from humanity, disappointment loses its poison. You no longer waste energy asking why selfish people behave selfishly. You no longer lose sleep because dishonest people lied. You stop taking human flaws as personal attacks against your existence. And suddenly your mind becomes calmer, because now, instead of reacting emotionally to every act of disrespect, deception, or betrayal, you observe it with understanding. You begin seeing human behavior almost like a strategist watching a battlefield. Calmly, intelligently, without emotional collapse. Most anger is born from unrealistic expectations. People suffer because they expect loyalty from weak minds, maturity from emotional fools, and honesty from those who fear truth. But once you accept that human nature has always been imperfect, you stop fighting reality itself. And there is enormous power in that realization. Master the art of emotional detachment. There is a dangerous level of power that most people will never reach because they are addicted to emotional reaction. The moment something offends them, they explode. The moment someone criticizes them, they become defensive. The moment life becomes uncomfortable, their emotions take control of their decisions. But Niccolò Machiavelli understood that the person who cannot detach from emotion becomes a prisoner of circumstance. Emotional detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of feeling. It is the ability to experience emotion without allowing emotion to dominate your mind. Weak people react instantly because they are slaves to impulse. Powerful people pause, observe, analyze. They understand that every emotional reaction reveals information, exposes weakness, and gives others access to their inner world. Imagine someone insults you publicly. Most people feel immediate pressure to defend themselves because their ego demands retaliation. They believe silence makes them weak. But emotional detachment allows you to see beyond the moment. You begin asking different questions. Is this person truly important? Does this situation deserve my peace? Is reacting emotionally helping me or helping them? That pause changes everything. Machiavelli admired calm minds because calmness creates strategic advantage. The emotional person becomes predictable. Once someone understands your triggers, they can manipulate your behavior whenever they choose. They know what angers you, what scares you, what wounds your pride. And from that moment forward, they can pull your emotions like strings attached to a puppet. But the emotionally detached individual becomes difficult to control because he refuses to hand over his inner stability to external chaos. This why silence unsettles emotional people. They expect a reaction. They crave emotional drama. When you remain composed, they lose control of the situation. Suddenly, their insults feel powerless. Their provocations collapse into emptiness. And while they lose composure trying to shake your peace, you remain centered, watching calmly as they expose their own insecurity. Detachment also teaches you something deeper about life. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every disrespect deserves revenge. Lions do not exhaust themselves chasing every barking dog because true strength does not constantly need to prove itself. And the moment you master emotional detachment, your mind becomes sharper, calmer, and far more dangerous than uncontrolled anger could ever make you. Build a mind that is larger than insults. Most people are emotionally fragile because their identity is built on the opinions of others. A single insult ruins their mood. One criticism destroys their confidence. One act of disrespect consumes their thoughts for days. Why? Because deep inside, they have allowed the outside world to determine their sense of worth. And Niccolò Machiavelli understood that a person who depends on external validation will forever remain emotionally vulnerable. The crowd is unstable. One day they praise you, the next day they condemn you. Public opinion changes like the wind because people themselves are ruled by emotion, envy, insecurity, and impulse. If your peace depends on their approval, your life will become an endless emotional prison. A powerful mind rises above this weakness. Think carefully about insults. Why do the words of another human being have the power to disturb your inner world? Why should someone else's opinion control your emotions unless you secretly believe they have authority over your value? This is the hidden truth most people avoid. Insults only penetrate the mind that is already uncertain about itself. Machiavelli observed that insecure people often attack others to hide their own weakness. Bitter people spread bitterness because it is overflowing inside them. Jealous individuals criticize because they cannot tolerate seeing confidence in others. And once you begin understanding this, insults stop looking dangerous. They begin looking revealing. The emotionally mature person no longer reacts to every attack because he understands human behavior at a deeper level. He realizes that people often project their own pain, fear, and insecurity onto others. The angry man accuses others because he cannot confront himself. The arrogant man seeks superiority because he secretly feels small. The mocker laughs loudly because silence would force him to face his emptiness. And this understanding changes your entire perspective. Instead of becoming emotionally wounded by criticism, you begin observing people calmly. You stop seeing insults as truth and start seeing them as information. Information about the speaker's emotional state, insecurities, and hidden frustrations. A strong inner world creates emotional immunity. When you truly know your value, outside voices lose their power to define you. You no longer feel the desperate need to defend yourself against every opinion because your identity is no longer built upon fragile approval from unstable minds. Realize that inner peace is the ultimate form of power. The world has deceived people into believing that power is measured only through money, status, influence, or dominance over others. Men spend their entire lives chasing titles, attention, and control, believing these things will finally make them untouchable. But Niccolò Machiavelli understood a truth far deeper than public image. A man who conquers kingdoms but cannot conquer his own emotions is still weak. Because what is the value of power if a single insult can disturb your peace? What is the value of success if criticism destroys your sleep? What is the value of influence if toxic people still control your emotions with a few careless words? True power begins when your inner world becomes unshakable. Most people wake up emotionally controlled by everything around them. Their mood depends on messages, opinions, social approval, or how others treat them. They live like emotional slaves, constantly reacting to circumstances they cannot control. One bad interaction ruins their day. One betrayal destroys their focus. One moment of disrespect poisons their thoughts for weeks. But the emotionally disciplined person becomes different. He no longer allows the outside world to dictate his inner condition. Chaos may exist around him, but it does not enter his mind easily. He understands that peace is not something given by the world. It is something protected from the world, and this changes the way people perceive him. Calmness has a strange effect on others. Emotional people become uncomfortable around someone they cannot provoke. Manipulators lose their advantage when guilt, anger, and shame no longer work. Toxic individuals grow frustrated because they feed on emotional reactions, and your silence starves them. Machiavelli admired self-governance because the man who rules